Okay, so today is 1.3, how to solve a multi-step equation. Okay, so let's quickly go through the steps on how to do it. One, it says remove all grouping symbols. That means you look for parentheses, so if you need to distribute, do that first. Secondly, combine your like terms. So take the things that look alike and add them together. 3, move all variables to one side of the equal sign. So if you have x's on both sides, you need to make sure you get them all to one side. 4, add or subtract the constant term. That's the number that's by itself, no variable is attached to it. And then finally, we're going to divide the coefficient, that's the number out front, or we're going to multiply by the reciprocal if it's in a fraction form. So that's like on number 1. Okay, so on number 1, first we look for any parentheses, see if we need to distribute. I don't see any, so we can skip 1. Combine like terms, and what that means is we look on each side of the equal sign for anything that looks like. So x is a regular number, we can't combine those, and then there's nothing to do on this side. Okay, so we're going to add or subtract our constant term, so that's the number by itself. And I'm always looking by the variable, okay? I don't care about 12 because 12 is already on the other side. So I need to get rid of this positive 6. The opposite of a plus 6 is a minus 6. What I do on one side, I do it to the other. Opposites cancel, so my 2/3 x drops down, equals 12 minus 6 is 6. All right. So since we have a fraction here, to get rid of it, we're going to multiply by the reciprocal. I call it a reflipical because we're going to flip it. What I do on one side, I do it to the other. The reason we multiply by reciprocals is because it cancels. The 2 on top, a 2 on bottom, a 3 on top, a 3 on bottom. So my x will drop down. 6 times 3/2 is equal to 9. Oops, sorry. All right. Number 2. I don't see any parentheses, so I don't need to distribute. So I move on to combining my like terms. I look on this side. This is a regular number. This has an x, so I can't combine them. This is over here by itself. So get rid of the constant, that's by the x, so this is the number by itself, so I need to get rid of this positive 1.2. The opposite of a positive is a negative, which means we have to subtract. What I do on one side, I do to the other. Opposites cancel, so 4.3x drops down. 9.8 minus 1.2 is 8.6. Okay, this says 4.3 times x. The opposite of times is divide, so I need to divide both sides by 4.3. 4.3 on top and bottom cancels, so my x drops down, equals 8.6 divided by 4.3 is 2. All right, remember you can pause and rewind as many times as you need to. All right, so on number 3, I do see parentheses, which means I'm going to have to distribute first. Okay, so what I'm distributing is this negative 2 over 9. So I'm going to multiply negative 2 over 9 by everything on the inside of parentheses. So here and there. Okay, so since I have a 6x out front, I'm going to go ahead and just drop that down. Negative 2/9 times 18x comes out to be a negative 4x. Negative 2 over 9 times a negative 27. Remember, a negative times a negative is a positive. So it's going to come out to be a positive 6 equals, and that 12 drops down. Okay, so now that we distributed, we need to combine our like terms on each side. So I'm going to look at this side first. I see x's here and here. So I'm going to go ahead and combine those. 6x, negative 4x. So when I add 6 and a negative 4, it comes out to be a positive 2x. My plus 6 will drop down. Equals, and my 12 on the other side will drop down. Okay, on the side that has our variable, we need to get rid of our constant, which is this positive 6. The opposite of a plus 6 is a minus 6. So my 2x's drop down. 12 minus 6 is 6. Final step is to get rid of this 2 that's by the x. That says 2 times x, so the opposite of times is divide. 2 on top and bottom cancel, so x drops down. 6 divided by 2 is 3. All right, on number 4, I see 2 different sets of parentheses, which means I'm going to distribute twice. On the first set, we need to distribute a negative sign. On the second set, I need to distribute a -6. Okay, whenever we multiply by a negative, I just say it turns everything opposite. So the opposite of a positive 1 is a -1. The opposite of a positive 7 is a -7x. So when you multiply by a negative, all it does is changes everything opposite. Okay, here, -6 times -7. Remember, a negative times a negative is a positive, so plus. 6 times 7 is 42. -6 times -x, a negative times a negative is a positive, and that's going to give me 6x. 36 will drop down. Okay, next step says to combine my like terms. So I look on this side first. I see x's here and here. That's -7 and a +6. -7 plus 6 is a -1, so I have -1x's. Remember, you don't have to put that 1. I also see regular numbers. I see a -1 and a +42, so I'm going to add those together. -1 plus 42 is a +41. My 36 falls down. Okay, so I'm looking on the side that has my x, and I need to get rid of the constant, which is this +41. To get rid, we do the opposite, -41 on both sides. Opposites cancel, so my -x drops down. 36 minus 41 is a -5. Okay, some people will try to stop right here, but the x is not by itself, it has a negative out in front. So to get rid of just a negative, I like to multiply the entire thing by another negative. Because remember what I said earlier, when you multiply by a negative, it makes everything opposite. So the opposite of a -x would be a +x. The opposite of a -5 would be a +5. All right, word problem. All right, we're going to set this one up. Let's read it first. A candy store sells 8-pound bag of mixed hazelnuts and cashews. If C pounds of cashews are in the bag, the price P of the bag can be found using the formula, and it gives me the equation. If one bag is priced at $18.11, how many pounds of cashews does it contain? Okay, so since it gave me the equation, I'm going to go ahead and rewrite it. Okay, so now that I have it rewritten, I know it gave me the information that I know it's priced at $18.11. So I need to figure out where would that go in my equation. Well, I know P stands for the price, so I'm going to plug in this value for P. All right, so now that I have it plugged in, I know I'm looking for C, how many pounds of cashews. Okay, so I need to go ahead and start solving this. First step is look for parentheses. Do we need to distribute? And I see it right here. So everything else will drop down. So I'm going to distribute this positive 1.72. 1.72 times 8 is a positive 13.76. Then I need to take this 1.72 and multiply it by a negative C. A positive times a negative is a negative. So I know it's going to be a minus sign. 1.72 times C is 1.72 C. Next step is to combine our like terms. So I look on this side, there's nothing to combine here, so it drops down. Look on the other side, I see C's here and here. 2.59 and a negative 1.72. So 2.59 plus negative 1.72 comes out to be 0.87C. My regular number will just drop down. Okay, next step is to get rid of our constant. So we look on the side that has our variable. Our constant is the number by itself, so to get rid of it, we do the opposite, which is going to be to subtract. Opposites cancel, so this 0.87C will drop down. 18.11 minus 13.76 is 4.35. Last and final step, what we need to do is get this 0.87 away from our c. Those are being multiplied, so the opposite is to divide. So I'm going to do that on both sides. 0.87 on top and bottom cancel, so that's going to make my c be by itself. 4.35 divided by 0.87 comes out to be 5. So if it cost me $18.11, I know I got 5 pounds of cashews. Okay, so we're doing the same thing, but this time we are going to have variables on both sides. So we have x's on this side and on this side. Same steps though. Step 1, we look for our parentheses. Do we need to distribute? Yes, we need to do it on both sides. 14 drops down. I need to distribute my negative. So remember, when you distribute a negative, it turns everything opposite. So I'm going to have a negative x, so minus x, and then a minus 5. 3 times x is 3x. 3 times 9 is a positive 27. My minus 10 drops down. Next step is combine like terms. So I look over here, I see a 14 and a negative 5. So I add those up. 14 plus negative 5 is a 9. My minus x will drop down. On the other side, I have a positive 27 and a negative 10. My 3x's will drop down, but when I combine 27 plus a negative 10, it comes out to be a positive 17. Okay, here's the part that's different. We have x's on both sides now. We can only have them on one side, so we pick any side. It doesn't really matter. Do we want to get rid of this negative x or this 3x? And the choice is really yours. Whichever way, you'll get the same answer. I'm going to pick this 3x. To get rid of these 3x's, I'm going to subtract 3x's because you do the opposite. Those were a positive. What I do on one side, I do on the other. My 9 will drop down. This was a negative 1x, right? So negative 1 minus 3. Negative 1 minus 3 is a negative 4. We have negative 4x's. All right, these cancel, right? 17 drops down. So now that we have our variable on one side, I get rid of the constant, which is the number by itself. That's a positive 9, so I need to subtract 9. This cancels, so my negative 4x drops. 17 minus 9 is 8. Next step, we have to get rid of this negative 4, so x can be by itself. Remember, when it touch, it means multiply, so I'm going to divide by negative 4 on both sides. Negative 4 on top and bottom cancels, so x drops down. 8 divided by negative 4 is a negative 2. Okay. I see parentheses, so I'm going to distribute. 2 times x is 2x. 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. The other side just drops down. Next step, make sure I have, combine like terms. I look over here. I can't combine because this is an x and just a constant number. On this side, x and a regular number, so nothing I can combine. So now I need to make sure I have all my x's on one side, which they're not, so I'm going to pick a side. It doesn't really matter, so I'm going to pick this side. Get rid of it, so do the opposite. That's a positive 2x, so I'm going to subtract 2x's. What I do on one side, I do on the other. 2x minus 2x, that cancels, so my minus 6 drops down. 2x minus 2x cancels, so my positive 5 drops down. Okay, so once I look at this, that looks weird. Negative 6 equals 5. Does negative 6 equal 5? No, it does not. So this is not true. So anytime that you are solving and it comes out to be not true, your answer is no solution. Which means there is no number in the world I can stick in there for x that would make those two equal each other. So there's no solution. All right, I see parentheses, so let's distribute. And then I'm going to distribute on this side as well. All right, 0.3 times 12x is 3.6x. 0.3 times negative 16 is a negative 4.8. On the other side, 0.4 times 12 is 4.8. And then I have 0.4 times negative 3x, which is negative 1.2x. All right, try to combine on this side. I can't combine because they're not like terms. On the other side, they're not like terms either. So moving on to the next step, which is making sure x's are on the same side. They're not, so I need to pick a side to get rid of. I'm going to get rid of this one. So to get rid of it, we do the opposite. The opposite of a minus is a plus. So I'm going to add 1.2 x's to both. 3.6 x's plus 1.2 give me 4.8x. This minus 4.8 will drop down. These cancel, so 4.8 drops down on the other side. Okay, so now that it's on one side, I have to get rid of the constant, which is the number by itself. Do the opposite, so I'm going to add 4.8. Opposites cancel, so 4.8x drops down. 4.8 plus 4.8 is 9.6. From here, we have to get rid of this 4.8. They're touching, which means multiply. Opposite is divide. 4.8 on top and bottom cancel. X drops down. 9.6 divided by 4.8 is 2. Almost done. All right, parentheses. So we distribute. 2/3 times 24r is 16r. Then I take 2/3 multiply by a negative 9. It's going to give me a minus 6. On the other side, we distribute as well. 2 times 8r is 16r. And then I'm going to take 2 times negative 3, and that's going to give me a negative 6. Okay, so some people could notice this right away, and we see that this says 16r minus 6 equals, and what's on this side? The same exact thing, right? So something does always equal itself. So that would be a true statement. And I'm going to write this down at the bottom because I'm going to continue working it out in case you didn't notice that. Okay, anytime it's true, unlike the other problem on number 7 when it's false, when it comes out to be true, your answer is infinite solutions. Which means I could plug any number in for r and it will always be equal. Okay, but let's keep working it out just in case you didn't notice that those were the same thing. So of course they have to be equal. All right, so the next step would be combine. Can't combine these, not like terms, and neither on the other side. So next step is to get our r's on one side. Pick either one, it doesn't matter. I'm going to pick these. Opposite of a positive 16r, I'm going to subtract 16r. 16r minus 16r cancels, negative 6 falls down. 16r minus 16r cancels, my negative 6 falls down. Notice negative 6 does equal negative 6, so therefore it's true, infinite solutions. All right, last word problem, we're done. Okay, a 12-inch candle and an 18-inch candle are lit at the same time, 6 p.m. The 12-inch candle burns 0.5 inches every hour. The 18-inch candle burns 2 inches every hour. At what time will the two candles be the same height? Same means equal, right? So we're going to write an equation and then solve. So we want the 12-inch candle to be equal to the 18-inch candle. So let's write what we know about the 12-inch candle. Okay, I know if the candle is burning, it's going to start at a certain height and go down. So the 12-inch candle is going to start at 12, and it's going to go down as it burns. Well, how much will it go down? 0.5 inches every hour. So and it's going to go down by 0.5, but every hour. So I need to multiply it by h, the number of hours. Okay, on the other side, the 18 inches candle starts at 18, and it's going to go down by 2 inches every hour. Okay, so now we need to solve. There's no parentheses, so I don't have to distribute. Combine like terms. Can't combine these. Can't combine these, so move on to the next step. Get all your variables on one side. So they're on both. I'm going to pick a side to get rid of. It really doesn't matter. I'm going to get rid of these, do the opposite, so I'm going to add 2h to both sides. My 12 falls down. Negative 0.5h plus 2h. So negative 0.5 plus 2 is a positive 1.5h. Opposites cancel, so my 18 falls down. All right, so now that my variables are on one side, I need to get rid of the constant that's beside it, which is the 12. That's a positive 12, so I subtract 12 from both sides. This cancels, so my 1.5h falls down. 18 minus 12 is 6. Last step, I need to get rid of that coefficient, that 1.5. When they touch, that means multiply, so I divide by 1.5. I'm running out of room. Oh well. Keep going. 1.5 on top and bottom cancels. My h falls down. 6 divided by 1.5 is 4. So it took 4 hours for those candles to be at the same height. Well, the question asked me what time, at what time? Well, they started at 6 p.m. If it took 4 hours, I know that they're going to be at the same height at 10 p.m. All right. See y'all tomorrow in class. Thank y'all.